Two fabulous games. You had to start the Concacaf Women's World Cup qualifiers, outstanding performances against Dominica and Turks and Caicos Islands. I'm assuming that you must be satisfied with those two performances.
Well, this is the problem with being a high performance coach. You're never satisfied. You might be pleased, but right. Satisfaction is an elusive goal. But we are making progress, and I'm pleased with where we are at this stage in our process. We went in there with a couple of goals. Number one is, probably a third of those players to almost half, it's their first time seeing them play. So you'll notice that we use two very different lineups. And so number one was assess talent, right? Who needs to be here? Who needs improvement? What do we need to do? Number two was build cohesion and chemistry. And so, yes, okay, assess talent, build cohesion and chemistry. Both those two boxes were ticked. And then the most important box was put ourselves in a position to advance from this round. We won both games. We did not concede a goal. Our goal differentiation is right now leading the pack. We'll see what Nicaragua and Turks and Caicos do tonight, but all three of those things I thought were a big win for us. And then I'll say this elusive goal, which is sometimes we hear from the folks out in the diaspora, is play as many local and domestic players as we can to make sure they have an opportunity to shine in front of their home fans. And I was really proud of the way they played and how well they shone.
What would you say was the most impressive thing for you coming out of those two games?
I'll say this. It's been 3 or 4 years since I've been around the players and their talent, and we brought us all together. The most impressive thing was how improved the Guyana-based players were. There were leaps and bounds improved. Whatever you folks are doing in the grassroots and the systematic approach to improving them, it's worked. 3 years ago, there was not a player that could compete in the practice environment, let alone starting. You had Annalisa Vincent that just put her mark and stamp on the game. You had 3 or 4 players come into the game and the levels maintained a pretty good level. I was so pleased to see that. Kudos to all the coaches that are coaching at the clubs and at the grassroots level. We are in their debt, and I am so impressed.
Right, and I'm sure that would make your work a lot easier, knowing that you have players here that could feed into a system.
Absolutely. What it does is it allows us to have the flow of practice. It allows us to have complicated tactical pieces where we don't have to go back to square one and teach the fundamentals of skill acquisition. And so by having those levels of players, it makes the practice environment really, really good. And it gives us a true representation of what a national team should look like.
Right. So on the flip side now, some of the things you think you need to improve on going forward?
We're not fit enough as a team. Right? We're not fit enough. We could see the level of play drop off from the first half to the second half in Dominica. Our quality of execution, our decision making, all of those things they fall away when you're not fit. Number two, and this is important, we weren't clinical enough in front of the 6-yard box, in front of the goal. We missed a couple opportunities that we could put away. When you play a team like Nicaragua or Trinidad, you have to make those chances count. You only get so many. And the longer you let teams hang around, the more they believe they're as good as you. And that needs to improve significantly.
Right. And of course, a lot of work has to go into preparing the team for the next game. You have some time in April, just about 6 weeks to go. Tell me a bit about the work you need to get in to be fully prepared for those games in April.
Well, today, right now, goes out to all the players in assessment form. So we evaluate them. We tell them where they were psychologically, technically, tactically, physically. And so they have a reading of what they need to improve on. And then it's up to them to go and get to the work. Whether they work with our strength and conditioning coach or their people, they got to put the work in. The next piece after that is reaching out to the federation and making sure that we've got our pre-camp set up. How many days before the camp do we need? How many days do we need to make sure we get this team ready? And then evaluate the local talent that's at the U20 tournament, the U17. Are there any pieces that we need to add to this team to improve or take away from this team because they weren't quite ready? Last and certainly not least, we got to get to the tape. We sent scouts to scout the game at Trinidad and Nicaragua. We had folks on the ground there scouting the Trinidad versus Dominica game. We got to put together a game plan that's going to take advantage of our strengths and look to take advantage of the opportunities that the Trinidad and Nicaragua team present to us.
Finally, Coach, how difficult was it preparing a team in the midst of a pandemic? I know that in itself has its own challenges.
It's so hard. You couldn't bring the team together. They didn't have access to gyms and the training environments, but let's be honest. We weren't the only team facing that challenge. And so it was tough for everybody. But I'll say it this, people did the best they could, and they made use of the little time they could together.
And that made the performances even more impressive.
Yeah. I think if we had an opportunity to be in residence and train together and do all those things, you'll see a better performance. I'm looking forward for a more skilled, more tactically sophisticated team come April.